What's up, book readers? It is August 20th, 2025, and it's a zillion degrees outside with humidity and thunderstorms, and I can't take it anymore. I'm hoping for the fall. I got my first Stephen King out of the year, which is unbelievable. I'm starting Cujo, but that has nothing to do with this. This is Earl Stanley Gardner. Perry Mason solves the case of the crying swallow and other stories. This, I believe, was the last book released under the Perry Mason moniker, and it's posthumous, I'm almost for sure. And the only case in the book is the case of the crying swallow. There are three other cases, one called the Candy Kid, the vanishing corpse, and the affair of the reluctant witness. And I had just previously reviewed a short story collection, and it was kind of okay. This one, not so much. This was actually my least liked Perry Mason interlude that I've had so far, and I believe it's my 14th or something like that. I'm not sure. You could look on the Perry Mason folder, the murder mystery / Perry Mason Agatha Christie folder, and see how many of these I've done. But this was the worst. And the first one, the story was okay, but there was no court case, which I didn't realize that so much until I read after the fact online and go, oh yeah, that's right. I'm used to hearing a court case in these stories, and it didn't have one. And I probably wouldn't have noticed had I not read that, because it was a mystery and he did kind of figure it out. But yeah, there was no court case. It made it less dramatic. And it was a realization that that is what sets the Perry Mason books apart from the Agatha Christie's and the Sherlock Holmes, is that almost all of them, if not all except for this one perhaps, have court cases in them. That said, I didn't enjoy that one very much. And I was thinking, well, a couple of the short stories out of the 5 in the prior Perry Mason short story collection that I read, there was a couple that were pretty good. One had a dramatic shootout at the end and things like that. This has a common thread in it, and it all has to do with diamonds and jewels. And so immediately you think about, at least I do, you think about James Bond and some of the capers that he had that were involving that. And the second one, the case of well, it's not the case of, it's just called the Candy Kid. These other 3 stories don't have Perry Mason in them at all. But the Candy Kid was quite repetitive. And I'm going to give you a spoiler because really I don't recommend reading this book at all. That involves hiding rubies inside of chocolates. And what was stupid about it is they had to bite into all these chocolates to figure out which ones contained the rubies. Of course, you're going to likely break your teeth. That didn't happen in the story, but it just seems stupid to me. The vanishing corpse was a little bit better. And then the affair of the reluctant witness just kind of like dropped off, like he hadn't finished it. And somebody just kind of said, oh, well, at the end of the story. And I think it's more than likely somebody that had his papers laying around. Now, the introduction to the previous short story said that there were many Perry Mason unpublished stories, or at least writings, I guess I should say, of Earl Stanley Gardner. But I could see that if this was the last one with the Perry Mason moniker, I can see why, because it wasn't leaving you wanting to do it anymore. I got just kind of tired of it at the end of this book, and I was like, I need to shift gears here. That's why I got my Stephen King Cujo book. I'm concurrently reading 4 books right now, and that's working for me because one is 1001 Arabian Nights, and they're basically short stories, and you can't read a very, very long block of several short stories at once without getting kind of a blur. You need to read some more substantial ones. So I do 20 pages of that a day. And then I'm reading The Imitation of Christ, and I want to really absorb that. And I'm only reading 10 pages of that a day. This I was doing 25, which worked pretty well. Now I'm on to Cujo, and I'll be probably doing 20 to 25 for that one. And what was the fourth book I'm reading? I can't remember off the top of my head. It's out there on my table, but there's some longer ones in there going to take me a while to get to. But the next review will probably be, it's probably going to be The Imitation of Christ, I think, or it'll be 1001 Arabian Nights. I'm not sure. That book's pretty long. It's 600 and something pages, and I'm less than 200 in. So anyway, I don't recommend The Case of the Crying Swallow and Other Stories. Didn't like it. And that's unfortunate because I like all of the Perry Masons so far out of the, I think 14 I've done, except for this one and another one I thought was a little bit far-fetched. Even that was okay, but this one was just kind of